Welcome to Her Second Stage, the podcast for women yearning to remember who they are and longing to rediscover themselves to live boldly and authentically. With me today is my very special friend, mentor, and spiritual leader, Kristi Worful, who has not only changed my life, but touched the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people through her work and wisdom. Kristi is a conscious entrepreneur who loves using business creation as a spiritual practice and a dojo for self-mastery. Her connection to nature allows her to bring harmony, abundance, and sustainability to the business ecosystems. She's the founder of Sangha, where you'll find a heart-centered approach to community and the School of Transformational Arts and Sciences. Welcome to Her Second Stage, the podcast dedicated to inspiring successful women in the next stage of their lives. I'm Hilda Landerstedt, and I'm excited to share the lessons I've learned as I transitioned into my second stage. Join me on this exciting journey of sisterhood and remembering who we are at our core. Remember, no matter where you've been, the best is yet to come. Kristi, welcome to our Second Stage podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Anything you want to add to that, to the intro? Such an amazing person. I'm just so happy to have you to have this discussion today.
What I really love practicing and what I believe in is taking the inner path to creating an outward life of abundance and harmony, and whether that's business or relationships or career. So I think he summed it up wonderfully. And I'm just so grateful and excited that we get to share with the world some things that we've been discussing, the two of us, and kind of get to bring it to the community.
Yeah, so today, I have done a series of discussions around the feminine, the divine feminine, who she is, the wounded and healed feminine archetypes, the light and dark feminine, the shadow side aspects of feminine. So today I'm really excited to have the conversation around the dance with the masculine, feminine polarity and energies that exist within all of us. And yeah, this is conversations like you've been guiding me over the last 5 years back to my feminine, and which I'm so grateful for. You know, the second stage, women needs to remember their power. And I say remember because I believe we all have at one point of our lives been in touch with our feminine power, but then through life events and society expectations, we forgot about ourselves and our powerful essence. So I'm going to head straight into this first question to you. So many women over the age of 40 spend years prioritizing their families, careers, external responsibilities. How do we begin to recognize where we're even stuck in our masculine or hyper feminine? What do we need to look out for? What does it do to our bodies? And why is it important that we are becoming aware of hyper masculine or hyper feminine essences?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I feel like the gift of the feminine is being so attuned to things around her that sometimes if we create so much space for the things around us, we lose that internal experience of ourselves. And so I think what would be really helpful is to describe the masculine and feminine for their distinct qualities first, and just share, the feminine is circular. It's the softness, it's the fluidity, it's, I think of dancing in spirals, it's creativity. And the feminine is this inward experience. So when we're tapping into our feminine, we draw in or we magnetize things into us. It's a pulling in energy, where that can also include things like receiving and receptivity and nourishment and rest and relaxation. The energies of the masculine that dance within us, the masculine is the straight line. It's efficiency, it's productivity, it's knowing where we are and knowing where we want to go and how do we get there. Masculine is this forward momentum in our lives. It's having direction, it's having clarity. And the masculine is this outward energy. So think of, instead of drawing in, it's like sharing ourselves like sunshine, it's like beaming and radiating. The masculine is also giving. So there's a lot of taking energy from within and giving, whether that's giving support or giving to others. And so when I think about these two, hopefully internally they're not black and white. We're not all in our masculine or all in our feminine. They're sort of like spiraling together. They're like DNA helixes. If you think about the feminine being the circle and the masculine being the straight line, then spiral creation or cyclical is both. So we're moving forward and we're circling around, and they dance together, they play together. There's no like one or the other.
I love that explanation. So do you think if we are more in our masculine and we are more in our straight line, and if we are more in our feminine, we just go in the circle, you don't really go any direction, and we in your masculine, you go the straight line, and you can sometimes forget to stop and go a little bit round and round?
Yeah, I think it's like our culture is just inherently so masculine. There's other cultures around the world that play, I think, a little bit more balanced with both, but we're always so focused on where are we going? How are we going to get there? What's the most efficient way? How do I scale it? How do I get from A to B and scale it as big as possible? Where the feminine is like, oh, let's take the scenic route. Let's stop for like a hot beverage on the way and watch a sunset. Let's celebrate the life that we've already created. Let's celebrate the progress and where we already are. When we're too in our masculine, we are so focused on where we're going that we don't slow down and really sink in and enjoy life. And when we're too in the feminine, we are always following maybe like what feels good, or we're going around in circles and we don't have much direction. We don't really get anywhere. There's not like this bigger purpose to all of the experiences of our life. I would say it's enjoyment without maybe purpose.
And we forget about that so well, that this is the dance, that sometimes you need to go and sometimes you need to slow down. And I know a conversation we've had a while ago is the overwhelmed woman, that often when we become overwhelmed, that we maybe feel unsafe and then adopt one of the two polarities, if I can call it like that. Just take me through what you believe, how being overwhelmed feels to a woman and how that affects her showing up.
Personally, from my experiences and working with a lot of women, is that our culture will never quit adding things to our plate. Societally, there's always more. There's always something more you could be doing, that you should be doing, that you ought to be doing. And so it's really up to us to know what's in alignment and what things are out of alignment. Because when we get overwhelmed, then we have to do more masculine things in order to keep up with what we already have on our plate. So it's like, how can I become more efficient? How can I squeeze more into my calendar? How can I do more? How can I exercise more so that I have more energy, so that I can do more things? And that amount of efficiency, it becomes so overwhelming in our bodies that we actually get disconnected from the internal attunement. And we not only get so focused. So if you think about mothers, I love using this example, is that we think of mothering as nurturing and being in our feminine, but that only works if we're in a nurturing space all the time, or if we're in a receptive space. So, if you think about a mother sitting in a corner in a nook by the fireplace, and she's just really connected to herself and her emotions, and she's so welcoming, and her kids come over, mom, I have this book that I want you to help me with, or I tell me about this thing, I have a question. And she's in such a space of receiving the kids that she's like, oh, come up on my lap and let me receive you. Let me just really welcome all of what you have. Let me bring it all to me. And in that situation, yes, mothering is nurturing, it's receptive, it's fulfilling, it's nourishing. But so often as mothers, our culture is overwhelmed. There's so much to do that mothering becomes a to-do list. It becomes an action item. It's actually so much giving and doing and managing that it puts women into their masculine. And so I think as a culture, we have a lot of fear around the feminine. Even our masculine, even sometimes my inner masculine resists the feminine, which is the part that wants to slow down. She just wants to rest and be replenished and be nourished and like hold her babies without interruption. She just wants to soak in every moment with them. And I think there's this undercurrent of fear if I slow down or if I rest or if I tune in to listen and wait for where I'm being guided to go. Will I fall behind? Will I be able to keep up with where the world is going? Will I miss the boat, so to speak?
That is exactly, I mean, this is the luxury of what you call replenish and rest. It's a luxury for a lot of women that's being so busy in the doing and forget that sometimes we just need to be. And for sure, the slowing down and waiting is something was a big lesson for me to just wait and see what comes up. And yes, not be scared that I'm going to miss the opportunity or what's the next thing. And you and I have had conversations about it. And you were my best role model and mentor into the slowing down process. So talk to me about the slowing down. Is it only because we're scared we're going to miss the boat? Is there other stuff that's coming up for us? What do we need to look out for? And how the heck can we just slow down? What's the consequences of slowing down for women?
Well, I think the consequence is that you have to get really clear about what's in alignment for you and what's not, where culturally, at least me, sometimes I get carried away in wanting to do everything. I want to do it all. Or if I have an idea, I think that idea needs to get started right now, or where the feminine teaches us rhythm and it teaches us there's a cadence to life. There's seasons for creation, there's seasons for maintenance. And, I love the quote that says, seasons are nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once.
That really resonates with me. And that there's something for everything. So in this season of planning your second stage of life, you really get to do how you would decide life should be, but not slowing down and doing nothing, just slowing down. Explain again what slowing down means for women who's built their businesses, happy kids are leaving, relationship status might be changing, has changed. What does slowing down look for someone that's planning her second stage?
I love this question. And I feel like for any of us, if we're ending a chapter or a life cycle or a season of life, there's a closing period of that season. So there's always a winter before we have spring. We don't go right from fall into summer. And the winter is where everything hibernates and it clears and it releases and it reflects before it starts anew, before it starts planting new seeds. And so I think the beautiful thing is that fall is the season, is the blaze, which is where everything burns down. Have you reflected? Have you decomposed? Have you digested the last season that you were in? Have you really spent time acknowledging like what was so beautiful about the business that you built? And the life and the kids and how devoted you were? And have you really honored yourself for that last chapter? I think a proper honoring and a reverence and a closing before we let go is so important so that we carry forward all of the beauty that was a part of that chapter and we hold on to that part of ourselves, whether it's our character or the way we showed up or the things that we just really love and are devoted to. And then when we start the letting go process and we start, after between fall and winter, then there's a chance for quiet reflection. That's receiving. It's creating enough space to receive the next step. And I think our culture gets very uncomfortable with the pause, with the stillness, because we want to find the next thing to do. We want to and it doesn't matter how fast you rush around, the next thing won't come until it's ready. So when I was in my last closing cycle, I tried everything I could to find what lit me up. Like, oh, I'm going to go back to school for feng shui design and energy and energetic designing of spaces and la 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 la. And it was like there were so many great things that I tried, but I tried because I was so uncomfortable waiting to receive the next step. And it was like, oh no, just slow down. Like, my darling, life is all coming together. It's okay to be patient and trust that slowing down isn't stopping. It's listening and receiving.
I love how you use seasons and nature as part of teaching. I mean, you can just see it and then it makes so much sense. But we as humans just go push through every season and not even having a little ceremony or ritual to say you thank the previous season of our lives. Yes. And also, I think at this stage, as we enter, I'm going to use your examples, one season going into the next season of life, I think a lot of women are also starting to redefine success to what truly matters. And there's almost, and I don't know if you experience it, like a trend of moving away from almost the patriarchal systems, what success is and look like and should look like, to something a little more softer. Do you find that too? And how do we use the masculine, feminine energies to create success, to our definition, to stay fulfilled and sustained as we age? I hate to say that, as we enter our second stage of life. Yes, nobody wants to get older, so I don't want to use that.
But we do, and what's beautiful is, I think sometimes I've heard, there was a woman I was listening to on a different podcast, and she was talking about how in your 20s and 30s, you're so busy chasing things that everyone else thinks you should be doing or who you should be. And then when you finally reach like your 40s, you're like, oh, who am I? What do I want? And so life over 40, or life for me, I really believe that every year gets better. I'm so much more aligned. I'm so much more wise. There's so much more abundance in my life. I create a lot of space for what's meaningful. So there's more fullness to it in my experience. And I think as we release the patriarchal view of more, there's always more, bigger, better, faster, harder. That's kind of the mindset that we're pulling out of, and we're going, well, wait a minute. If we're doing and it's not actually replenishing, and I'm just out for the next doing, there's a lack of deep fulfillment and deep nourishment. And so what I think the feminine seeks is, when I go after something, I know that it's going to fill my cup. And also, I'm already creating from a full cup. Like, I know how to fulfill me. I know what I need to nourish. And then creation isn't to fill a void or to make me something more than I already am. It's really expanding the fullness of what and who I already am, and using creation as a way to fan the flames of that person, really ignite more of who she already is, instead of this search for, how do I become more? How do I do more?
You have such beautiful ways of explaining. Thank you. I want to give you a couple of minutes. Do you want to just explain your work, your passions, what you're bringing forth in this season of your life, and what people can contact you for?
Yes. So I have been in a process, in a practice of creating from attunement. And I think that whatever it is that needs to be created within the collective comes from attunement. And so I think any business, any process, if it lacks attunement, then that's where we start to get off track or off course, and we have to start forcing things. And so I think one of the things that I wanted to really close with, and that I wanted especially women to sit with, is that when you are attuned to yourself, you are attuned to the entire collective and the web of all creation. So the feminine has access energetically to all of creation. When she can pull in and deeply attune to what's already inside of her, she can create from abundance. Everything that needs to be created, the seeds, the guidance, the awarenesses, they all reside within. And so I think that's in different forms and facets. That's what I really teach people to do, is to go within and to see what wants to be created and how to attune their gifts to the collective and what's needed in the collective right now. So I have a school of transformational arts and sciences, a program, a journey called Transcendence. And that's like a 9-month really rebirthing and stepping into the soul expression of who we are and creating from that true nature, our truest nature. But I also do deep dives, and I love working one-on-one with clients. And I know you and I have talked also about offering some retreats later this year or next year together, and just really bringing this beautiful feminine energy together into containers. So yeah, they can find me on Instagram, Kristi Worful. Hopefully we can include all the links in the show notes, because I've got a couple different links just based on what one's interested in.
I'm really looking forward to what we're going to bring together to the world. And again, if it wasn't for your Transcendence program that I've done, I don't think this podcast, I would be so much still in my doing and in my investing in businesses and doing all this stuff. If we'd said 5 years ago, I'll be sitting here, you and I will be talking on a podcast that I'm the host of, I would not have believed it. So again, I think I am the model of what happens when you learn to slow down and get the messages and like bringing something new to the world in a different stage of life. And I want to honor that for what you've done to me in my life. So we have just one question from a previous guest to our next guest. And your question is, what is your life motto?
So I think since the time I was young, like 17, I just had this love of life. And I really wanted to help others love living, but not just the good, but all of it. I just like loving the ups, loving the downs, cherishing the hard life lessons, growing from the beauty and the moments that we celebrate. I used to be such an outward adventurer. And I think really since tapping into my feminine, my motto has just become, I believe in taking the inner path to creating a life of abundance and harmony. And I truly believe that anything within us will manifest outwardly. So when we go into ourselves and we tease out and we really work with and dance with all of the energies playing with us internally, that internal landscape is really what creates and attracts and magnetizes everything in our external reality. Everything good in my life that I think I've created has really come from this internal seed that's so abundantly like manifested.
Yes, and you live that authentically. I remember about a year ago, I had some plan, or I think I was just thinking about things, and you sort of matter of factly said, "Oh, I wonder what your internal revolution needs to be to be able to," and that, to be able to create your external world. And firstly, that's how you live. And secondly, you started a cascade of internal revolutions of what I needed to become internally in order to show up or to create something in the world. So you living your life motto has for sure I think, impacted everyone around you. And I want to thank you for your authenticity in that. Is there anything else that's coming up for you on that dance between the masculine and feminine that you feel we need to still, before we close the conversation off? Is there anything women in the second stage can learn from you?
Well, I believe like as they're sitting down is to really listen to themselves and consult their inner wisdom and what stage are they really in. I believe that sometimes we do want to rush to the next stage or to the next season or to the next process. And if we could really sit with what is the season that I'm truly in and what can I honor in that season, and then learning to dance with both of those energies. I joke, or the way that I perceive it is that the masculine in me knows that I have this podcast. And so it's going to put it on the calendar. It's going to make sure I have the dedicated time. It's going to keep the commitment, and it's going to, sit down to tune into the topic. And then the feminine in me, she's going to set sacred space. She's going to get into full relaxation and receiving. She's going to set her intention and what she wants to speak about. And then she's going to listen and wait to receive all of the insight that comes in and really receive the internal wisdom. And so I feel like we don't have to get stuck in one or the other. We can kind of have this fun interplay and this fun dance with like, how do we create forward momentum and structure? And then how do we make it feel good? And how do we enjoy every moment of our creative process or of our life?
Thank you for sharing. And I think we come to the end of this episode. And I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your beauty with us. And I love how we as women can learn from each other, can just love each other in sisterhood, support and make the world a better place. And thank you for your energy that you bring to the world and the community that you've created. It's a pretty special place. Thank you.
Thanks, Hilda. So much love and gratitude. Thank you.
Let it ride.